I'm very pleased that my country, Timor-Leste, recently independent, only 8 years independent, we have also taken steps in our international obligations by ratifying the Montreal Protocol on climate change. This is a small way or big way, depends how each of us see it, in contributing towards mitigating the impact of climate change. We can go on blaming the industrialized countries. Industrialization was inevitable. We could not have told the United States and Europeans, Japan, 100 years ago, please don't manufacture ships, don't manufacture locomotives, don't manufacture tractors, don't manufacture cars, because 100 years from now we will have suffer impact. Obviously, that was totally unthinkable. No one was that wise 100 years ago to have predicted this. Industrialization was inevitable as science and technology evolve to give us human beings better life. And science and technology did provide us with much, much better quality of life compared with 100 years ago. However, it has had its cost, its side effect, and that is in the pollution, it is in the emissions that threaten the ozone layer. The consequences are there. I don't need to repeat what people who know more than I do, scientists from the UN, academia, all over the world, strong consensus on the tremendous nefarious impact of climate change. I would say is that how each of us, small and big countries, collectively can do to slow down the damage that we are doing to our own planet, to our own lives, but how each of us individually can contribute, like Timor-Leste, this small country. Don't we have a role to play, or we simply play the role of victim and just pointing finger at the major industrialized powers? How are we going to protect our coral reefs, for instance, by banning the use of pesticides, of explosives to catch fish, for instance? We can protect our forests by putting a ban on commercial logging, on depleting our fish stock with allowing illegal fishing in our waters. We cooperate with our neighbors in the Coral Triangle Initiative that is made up of Indonesia, the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, Malaysia, East Timor and Solomon Islands. We are the guarantors, or we are the owners of one of the richest coral life in the world that affect the life of more than 100 million people. If by the action of the industrialized powers and our inaction, our coral system is depleted, destroyed, a whole ecosystem is destroyed. Over 100 million people will lose their livelihood from the sea and from the forest. So what we have to do is not to overfish, not to dump every kind of garbage into our seas, into our lakes, our rivers, not to unscrupulously cut our forests, burn the forest like it happened in Southeast Asia every year, by planting new trees, by protecting the soil. So if each of us, in our small ways or big ways, take these concrete actions, I think we can, in 50 years from now, looking back, we could say, yes, we have avoided a catastrophe. But I hope that rich countries that in the past were so slow and not too generous and wise in, for instance, allocating money to poorer countries in fighting poverty, because after more than 2 decades of United Nations appeal to the donor countries to allocate at least 0.7% of their GDP to overseas development assistance, only 5 small Nordic countries have done so. The rest have not met this very modest target. Well, poverty has to do with the environment. If people are extremely poor, have no access to clean energy, they will cut trees, destroy their own forests, and they have no way but to do it. When you tell someone in the bush, in the mountains of East Timor, please don't cut the trees for cooking, he or she will say, and how am I supposed to cook my food? Are you going to cook for me? So that's the reality we live in our countries, and I hope that in Copenhagen, in December, the whole international community will gather morality, decency, and common sense, pragmatism, bear in mind our own survival as a human species, and adopt a very proactive, strong treaty with binding norms, but as well as a strong, generous financial package to assist developing countries in moving away from fossil fuels into clean energy.